The night was colder than anyone could remember. The wind howled through the empty streets like a lonely wolf, and the sky was covered with dark clouds. It was the coldest night of the year. In a small, broken-down house at the edge of the village lived Zainab. She was an old woman with tired eyes and wrinkles that told stories of a hard life. She was poor, lonely, and lived alone. Every day was a struggle just to have enough food to eat and to keep warm. Zainab had no family left. Her children had moved to far cities, and her husband had passed away many years ago. She stayed in her small house, surrounded by memories and silence. That night, as she sat near the small fire in her room, she heard something soft outside, an almost invisible sound. It was a faint cry, like a tiny baby crying in pain. Zainab's heart jumped. She put on her old coat and went outside into the bitter cold. The wind cut through her thin clothes, but she did not care. The crying was getting louder. She walked carefully toward the sound and saw something on the ground near the dusty road. A small bundle wrapped in torn cloth was lying there. Zainab's hands trembled as she reached out. She lifted the bundle and found a tiny baby, no more than a few days old, shivering and crying weakly. The baby's face was pale and cold. His tiny hands moved slowly, trying to find warmth. Zainab wrapped him tightly in her shawl and held him close to her chest. She felt his small heart beating fast. Zainab's mind raced. Why was this poor baby left outside on such a freezing night? Who could be so cruel? Her heart ached for the child. She looked around, but no one was there. The village was quiet except for the wind and the baby's weak cries. It seemed the world had forgotten this little life. Without thinking twice, Zainab took the baby inside. She lit the small stove, warmed some milk, and gently fed him. Her hands shook, but she was careful. The baby slowly stopped crying and began to relax in her arms. As she looked at the child, a feeling of hope and fear mixed inside her. She knew she was poor and old, but she also knew she could not leave this baby alone to die in the cold. That night, as the wind howled outside, Zainab stayed awake, watching the baby sleep peacefully in a small cradle she had made from old cloth and wood. She whispered softly, "You are safe now, little one. I will take care of you." But deep down, Zainab worried. She was a poor woman with very little money. How would she feed and protect this baby? How would she keep him safe from the harsh world? The next morning, the village woke to the news. A baby was found and saved by Zainab. People were surprised. Many did not expect kindness from someone so poor and alone. Some were curious. Others were suspicious. Who left the baby? They asked. Why here in this cold night? Zainab did not know the answers. She only knew one thing. She could not let this child suffer. Days passed, and Zainab cared for the baby with all her strength. She named him Ali, meaning high or exalted, hoping he would have a better life. Slowly, Ali grew stronger. His cheeks became rosy, and his eyes sparkled with life. But the questions remained. Where did he come from? Why was he left to die? Zainab decided not to tell anyone about the baby's past. She feared what might happen if people learned about him. Yet, each night as she looked at Ali sleeping, she prayed for answers and for a better future. One evening, a stranger came to the village. He was tall and wore a dark coat. His eyes scanned the houses carefully, and when he stopped near Zainab's home, Zainab's heart beat faster. The stranger knocked on her door. "Are you the one who found the baby?" he asked quietly. Zainab hesitated. "Yes, I am." The man's face was serious. "You must be careful. The baby is important and some people are looking for him." Zainab's hands clenched tightly. "Who are these people? What do they want?" The stranger did not answer. He only looked at her with a warning. That night, Zainab stayed up late, worried. She held Ali close and whispered, "We must be strong. No one can take you from me." Days turned into weeks. Zainab's simple life was no longer simple. She knew she had saved a special child, but danger was near. The cold night that brought Ali to her life was only the beginning. Something bigger was coming. something that would change everything for Zainab and Ali forever. The days after that cold night were not easy for Zainab. Life had always been hard for her, but now she had a little baby to care for. Ali was no ordinary child. He was fragile and needed constant attention. But Zainab loved him more than anything in the world. Zainab did not have much money. Her small house was old and leaking. There was barely enough food for herself, but now she had to find enough for two. She worked wherever she could, cleaning houses, washing clothes, and sometimes selling small things in the market. Every penny she earned went to Ali. Neighbors often looked at Zainab with pity. "Why are you keeping that baby?" they whispered. "You can't afford to raise a child. You should have left him outside." But Zainab never listened. She knew that Ali was her responsibility, her reason to live now. Days turned into weeks. Ali grew slowly, but he was strong. His eyes shone bright, full of curiosity. Zainab sang soft songs to him, telling stories about hope and kindness. She dreamed of a better future for her son. However, life was not always kind. One winter, a terrible sickness spread through the village. Many children fell ill. Ali caught the fever, too. For days, Zainab stayed awake, holding him close, praying for his life. The villagers who once doubted her now came to help. Some brought herbs, others shared food. Slowly, Ali's strength returned. This time, Zainab felt the warmth of a small, caring community. As Ali grew older, he began to ask questions. "Where is my mother? Why was I left outside?" His small voice was full of hope and pain. Zainab's heart ached. She wanted to tell him the truth, but feared it would hurt him. "Your mother loved you very much," she said gently. "Sometimes, life makes hard choices, but I promise you I will always be here for you." Ali smiled but looked thoughtful. He dreamed of one day finding his real family. Years passed. Ali went to the village school, and Zainab worked harder than ever to pay for his books and clothes. Life was simple, but full of love. Still, Zainab worried. The stranger from the night Ali was found had not returned, but she felt someone was watching them. Sometimes she saw unfamiliar faces in the crowd. Sometimes strange phone calls came late at night. She did not tell Ali. She wanted to protect him from fear. One evening, Ali came home excited. "Zainab, today a man asked me if I was looking for my real parents. He said they might be near." Zainab's heart stopped for a moment. She forced a calm smile. "Some people say strange things, Ali. Don't listen to them." But deep inside, she knew the time was coming. The past was catching up. Ali was no longer a child. He was tall and strong with dreams in his eyes. He wanted to understand who he was and where he came from. Zainab looked at him proudly but felt a deep fear. Could she protect him from the secrets that waited in the shadows? One cold night, Zainab heard a knock on the door. Her heart raced. It was the stranger again. This time he was not alone. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Zainab stepped outside, holding Ali's hand tightly behind her. The stranger looked at Ali and said, "You are not just any child. Your past is more important than you know." Zainab felt a chill deeper than the cold night outside. The story of Ali's past was about to begin, a story of pain, secrets, and hope. But Zainab was ready. She would fight to keep Ali safe, no matter what. Ali was now a young man. He was kind, smart, and full of dreams. Everyone in the village liked him. He helped the elders, studied hard, and always stood by Zainab. To him, she was not just the woman who raised him. She was his real mother. But deep inside, Ali always felt a strange emptiness, a missing piece in his heart. He didn't know where he came from, or why he had been abandoned on a freezing night. The questions grew louder every day. One evening, while going through an old wooden chest in the storeroom, Ali found something unusual. Wrapped in a piece of cloth was a silver bracelet, small, dusty, but still shining. It had a name carved on it. A. Raymond. He ran to Zainab. "Who is this, Zainab? Why was this bracelet hidden?" Zainab looked at the bracelet with wide, Her hands shook as she took it from him. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a soft voice, she whispered, That was found on you the night I brought you in. I never knew what it meant. Ali's heart pounded. So, someone gave it to me? Someone cared enough to leave me with this? Zainab nodded slowly. Yes, my child, but I didn't know who. I was only trying to keep you safe. I feared that asking too many questions might bring danger. Ali held the bracelet tight. He now had something, a clue. Maybe this was the first piece of the puzzle he needed. That night, Ali couldn't sleep. He stared at the bracelet under the weak light of a lantern. Questions ran through his mind. What if his parents were still alive? What if they were looking for him? Or worse, what if someone had left him to die on purpose? The next morning, Ali left early for the town's library. He asked about the name A. Rahman. A kind librarian helped him search through old newspapers, village records, and birth documents. Hours passed, and then a surprise. There was an old news article, nearly 20 years old. The headline read, Millionaire family in grief after child mysteriously disappears from hospital. Ali's hands trembled as he read. The article told the story of a wealthy couple, Mr. and Mrs. Rahman, whose newborn son had vanished from the hospital just 3 days after birth. The hospital had no answers. No one had seen anything. The baby was gone without a trace. Ali's heart raced. Could he be that baby? He rushed home and told Zainab everything. She sat down slowly, tears in her eyes. I always knew you were special, she said softly. But if this is true, then your life is about to change. But Zainab, Ali said, no matter what happens, I will never leave you. You are my mother. She smiled, touched his face, and whispered, You are my son. Nothing will ever change that. The next day, Ali took the bracelet and the newspaper to the local police station. He told them his story. At first, they were doubtful. But after checking the records and comparing dates, even they began to take him seriously. Soon, a message was sent to the Rahman family, now living in the city, still wealthy, still broken-hearted over their lost child. Within 2 days, the family sent a man to meet Ali. He arrived in a black car and wore a sharp suit. His name was Mr. Farouk, the personal lawyer of the Rahmans. He looked at Ali carefully. You look just like your father, he said with a soft smile. We've waited years for this moment. Ali felt a storm inside. Excitement, fear, confusion. Mr. Farouk continued, the Rahmans never stopped looking. They even built a foundation to help abandoned children in your name. Arsalan Rahman. Ali's hands shook. That's me? It may be. But we must be sure. A DNA test will tell. For the next few days, everything changed. The quiet village was filled with whispers. Reporters tried to get close. People who once ignored Zainab now praised her. But Zainab stayed silent. Her heart was heavy. If the test proved true, would she lose her son? Ali, too, felt torn. He wanted answers, but he didn't want to hurt Zainab. I will never leave her, he told Mr. Farouk. Even if I'm a Rahman by blood, I am her son by love. Mr. Farouk smiled. And that's why your parents will be proud of the man you've become. The waiting felt like years, even though it was just a few days. Every morning, Ali woke up with the same thought. Will today be the day I find out who I really am? Zainab tried to act normal. She still made his favorite tea and prepared simple meals, but her eyes looked tired. She smiled less. At night, she often sat silently near the window, staring out as if watching for something. Or someone. Ali noticed. Zainab, are you scared? She looked at him gently and said, Not scared, my son, just worried. If the world takes you from me, I want it to know how much you were loved before it found you. Ali held her hand. No matter what, you will always be my mother, one cold. Afternoon. A black car returned to their village. Mr. Farouk stepped out, holding an envelope in his hand. His face was calm, but his eyes held something heavy, something serious. Ali's heart raced. He walked out to meet him and Zainab followed slowly. Farouk looked at them both. "The results are here," he said softly. He opened the envelope and pulled out a paper. Then he looked into Ali's eyes and said, "It's a match." There was a long silence. "You are the missing son of Mr. and Mrs. Raymond. You are Arsalan Raymond." Ali felt the world spin for a moment. The truth, the thing he had dreamed of for so long, was now real. Zainab stood quietly. Her face had no expression, but a tear rolled down her cheek. Farouk stepped forward again. "Your real parents want to meet you. They have never stopped praying for this day." That evening, Ali sat alone under the same tree where Zainab had once rocked him to sleep as a baby. His mind was full of memories. Every moment Zainab had given him, every smile, every story, every tear. He walked inside and sat beside her. "Zainab, I want to meet them. I need to know. But I promise you I'm not leaving you behind." Zainab nodded slowly. "Go, my child. You deserve to know where you came from. Just remember who raised you." Ali hugged her tightly. "You are my heart. That will never change." A few days later, another black car came, this time to take Ali to the city. As the village waved goodbye, many were crying. Even those who once judged Zainab now respected her deeply. The journey to the Tao city felt like a dream. Tall buildings, shiny roads, and lights everywhere. It was a different world. When the car stopped in front of a huge mansion, Ali hesitated. The doors opened, and a man and woman stepped out. The woman gasped and covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. The man whispered, "It's really him." They ran forward and hugged Ali tightly. "My son," the woman cried, "my baby, you're alive." Ali stood still, unsure at first, but then he felt something warm in their hug, a sense of blood, of truth, of connection. "I'm Arsalan," he whispered. "I've come home." The next few days were a whirlwind. Ali learned everything. How he had gone missing from the hospital, how the police had failed to find him, how his parents had never given up. They had kept his room the same for 20 years. His toys, clothes, and even his first picture still sat there. He was overwhelmed. This life, full of wealth, comfort, and attention, was all his by birth. But he couldn't stop thinking about Zainab. He called her every night. "Are you okay? Did you eat? Did you take your medicine?" She always said yes. But her voice sounded far away, like something was slowly fading. One morning, Ali found an old photo of Zainab holding him as a baby. She looked younger, her smile wide, her arms strong around him. He felt a deep pain in his heart. He stood up and walked into the living room where his biological parents were sitting. "I need to go back," he said. They looked shocked. "But you just got here, son." "I need to see her. She raised me. She gave up everything for me. I can't leave her alone." His mother nodded slowly. "Then let's go together." And so, just a week after he arrived, Ali returned to his village. This time not alone, but with 2 families behind him. When he entered the old house, Zainab was sitting on the floor, holding her prayer beads. She looked up, and her eyes filled with tears. Ali rushed to her and held her hand. "I'm here, Zainab. I'm home." His biological mother stepped forward, tears running down her face. She knelt beside Zainab and said, "Thank you. Thank you for saving my son." Zainab smiled, her eyes shining with peace. "He is your son, but also mine." The room was silent, but it was full of love. Ali had 2 mothers now, 2 homes, 2 lives. And he knew deep in his heart, both had made him the man he was. The sun rose gently over the quiet village. Birds chirped on the rooftops. But inside Zainab's small home, the silence was deeper. Ali sat between his 2 mothers, the one who gave him life and the one who gave him love. For a long moment, no one spoke. Zainab's wrinkled hand held Ali's tightly. Beside them, Mrs. Raymond, his birth mother, wiped tears from her eyes. Mr. Raymond stood respectfully, his eyes filled with emotion, watching this moment he had dreamed of for 20 years. Ali looked at both women. I never knew I could feel this full and this torn at the same time. Zainab smiled weakly. That's what love does, my son. It fills and breaks the heart at once. That evening, the Raymonds asked Zainab to come live with them in the city. They wanted her to have a better life, comfort, care, doctors, and peace. But Zainab shook her head slowly. My place is here. These walls know my story. This air carries my memories. Ali looked troubled. But you live all alone. Zainab placed her hand on his. Not anymore. You came back. That's enough for my heart. Days passed. The news spread quickly. The millionaire's lost son had been found in a poor village. Reporters arrived. Cameras followed. Everyone wanted the full story. Ali avoided the attention. He stayed by Zainab's side, walking with her to the mosque, helping her with chores, listening to her stories again and again. But a storm was quietly building. One afternoon, while Ali was out collecting medicine for Zainab, two strange men knocked on her door. We are from the government, one of them said. We need to ask you questions about how you found the child 20 years ago. Zainab frowned. Why now, after all these years? It's routine, they said. We need to know if everything was legal. Zainab's heart pounded. She hadn't stolen Ali. She had saved him. But the idea that someone would question her, or worse, try to take him away, filled her with fear. That evening, she told Ali everything. Maybe the world doesn't understand what I did. Maybe they never will. Ali stood up, furious. You saved my life. Anyone who questions that will have to answer me. Zainab touched his arm. Don't fight, my son. Let the truth speak for itself. But the visits didn't stop. A week later, a lawyer from the city came with papers. You might be charged, he said coldly. Technically, you hid a child who belonged to someone else. Ali lost his temper. She didn't hide me. She rescued me. She raised me when no one else came. The lawyer shrugged. The law may see it differently. That night, Ali couldn't sleep. He looked at Zainab, sleeping peacefully in her small bed, and felt rage in his chest. The world that ignored her all her life now wanted to question her love? No, he wouldn't let that happen. The next morning, Ali contacted every major news channel. He gave interviews. He told the full story, how a poor old woman had saved a dying baby on a freezing night, raised him with love, and never once asked for anything in return. She is not just a woman who found a child, he said. She is the reason I am alive today. The video went viral, millions watched, thousands cried. The public's voice rose in one united cry, justice for Zainab. Under public pressure, the legal threats disappeared. The lawyer never returned. The two government officers were nowhere to be found again. Zainab was safe, but the truth had done something more powerful. It had given Zainab something she had never had before. Respect. People from nearby villages visited to meet her. Young mothers came asking for advice. The mayor honored her with a medal for bravery and love. Zainab smiled quietly through it all, but her heart remained simple. I don't need medals, she said to Ali. I just need your smile. Then came the day Ali had to return to the city. His biological parents had waited patiently. They wanted time with their son. They wanted to show him the world he was born into. Zainab helped him pack. She folded his clothes, kissed his forehead, and said, Go, my child. Go see the world. But don't forget the woman who waited in the dark. Ali held her tightly. You are the light I'll carry forever. As he drove away, Zainab stood at her doorstep, waving softly. Her figure grew smaller in the mirror, but her love remained large in Ali's heart. In the city, things moved fast. Big meetings, new clothes, cameras, and wealth. But every night, Ali looked at his old photo with Zainab and whispered, I'll come back soon. The wind in the village had started to turn cold again, just like the night Zainab had found the baby near her doorstep. But this time, something felt different, quieter, slower, almost as if the air itself was waiting for something. Zainab lay on her small bed, her eyes closed, her hands holding her old prayer beads. Her breaths had become weak. Her body, once strong enough to carry water buckets and raise a child on her own, was now tired, very tired. She hadn't told Ali. Every time he called, she smiled and said, "I'm fine, my son. Just a little. Tired. You take care of yourself." But the truth was, Zainab knew. Her time was near. Back in the city, Ali felt uneasy. He sat in his new room, big, full of expensive furniture, but he couldn't sleep. His heart felt heavy, as if something was pulling him back. His biological mother came into the room. "You miss her, don't you?" Ali nodded. "I don't know why," he whispered, "but I feel like she needs me." She walked over and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "Then go." A mother never says it, but sometimes she waits for her child, just once more. Ali left that same night. He drove himself, not in a big car with bodyguards, but in a small, quiet car. As he reached the village, the early morning fog had started to rise. He ran toward the small house. The door was unlocked. Inside, Zainab was lying on the bed, her face peaceful, as if she was simply sleeping. Ali rushed to her side. "Zainab, it's me. I'm here." Her eyes slowly opened. She saw him and smiled faintly. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. Ali took her hand and pressed it to his cheek. "Don't leave me, Zainab. Please." She looked into his eyes, and in the softest voice she said, "I already stayed longer than life expected, just to see you become who you are." Tears rolled down Ali's cheeks. "You are my mother. No one will ever take your place." Zainab smiled again, but weaker this time. Her voice was almost a breath now. "You gave me 20 years of reason to live, and now I give you my blessing to live on." Her eyes slowly closed, and with one final breath, she was gone. The entire village came to Zainab's funeral. People cried openly. Old neighbors, children she had helped, even strangers who had only heard her story came to pay their respects. Ali didn't speak that day. He simply stood near her grave, silent, with a deep emptiness inside. He held the photo of the two of them, Zainab, young and smiling, and baby Ali in her arms. "I wasn't born from your blood," he whispered, "but your love raised me, better than anything money could buy." Back in the city, Ali changed. He gave up many of the flashy things, the clothes, the parties, the attention. He used his wealth for better things. He opened a foundation in Zainab's name, the Mother's Heart Foundation. Its goal, to help poor, abandoned children, just like he once was. Each child they helped got a small blanket stitched with Zainab's name. Ali spent most of his days working with them. He visited villages, brought supplies, and told Zainab's story again and again. Kindness, he would say, doesn't need money. It needs heart. One day, a little girl at the foundation asked him, "Uncle, where is your real mother?" Ali smiled. "I had two mothers," he said. "One gave me life, and one taught me how to live it." Years passed, but Zainab's name lived on. Every winter, Ali visited her grave and lit a small candle, and every time he whispered the same words, "You found me in the cold, and now, because of your warmth, I live." Years had passed since Zainab's gentle soul left the world, but her name had not faded. It had grown brighter, reaching hearts far beyond the small village she once called home. Ali, now in his late 30s, stood on the stage of a grand hall in the city. Cameras flashed. Hundreds sat in the audience, politicians, teachers, doctors, and children. Behind him was a large banner, Zainab's home, 100 orphans, one mother's dream. The foundation he built in her name had now opened its 10th shelter for abandoned and poor children. These shelters were not made of expensive walls. They were built with warmth, safety, and love, just like Zainab had given him. As Ali took the microphone, he looked at the crowd. His voice was calm but heavy with emotion. "I was once left in the freezing cold, unwanted, forgotten, but a poor, elderly woman with nothing of her own chose to save me." He paused. looking at a photo of Zainab on the screen behind him, her eyes smiling, her hands wrapped around a baby. She didn't just rescue me from the cold, she rescued my soul, and everything I am today is because of her. The audience was silent. Many wiped their eyes. Ali continued. Zainab was not rich. She didn't finish school. She didn't even own a fan for the summer heat. But her heart was the biggest thing I've ever known. After the event, Ali walked to a quiet corner where a group of children stood, dressed in warm clothes and holding books. One little boy walked up to him, his eyes big and full of wonder. Sir, who was Zainab to you? Ali knelt down and smiled. She was the first person who ever looked at me and saw a future. The boy nodded slowly. I think she would be proud of you. Ali's smile broke into a tear. I hope so. That night, Ali drove back to the village. He didn't come in a luxury car. He came the same way he always had, quietly, alone, with a heart full of memories, Zainab's. Small house was still standing. He had restored it but left everything inside the same. The chair where she sat, the prayer mat where she cried, the wall where she marked his height with chalk. He sat by the window and closed his eyes, and for a moment he could almost hear her voice. Drink your milk, son, it's cold outside. He smiled through tears. The next morning he visited her grave, a simple stone under a neem tree. He knelt, placed flowers and whispered, They know your name now. Children smile because of you. The world may have forgotten you once, but I never will. He sat there quietly for a long time. Then he stood up, looked at the sky, and said softly, Thank you for choosing me. Epilogue, 20 years later. The young boy, barely 5 years old, ran through the hallway of Zainab's home. He was barefoot, laughing, holding a toy airplane. An old photo hung on the wall. Zainab with a child in her arms. Beneath it was a quote. One heart, one act of love can save generations. In another room, a teacher told a group of children, Do you know the story of the woman who saved a baby on the coldest night of the year? The children leaned forward. Her name was Zainab, and because of her, this place exists.